Welcome back to the Mandarin Blueprint podcast. I'm here with Heath, who has been kindly willing to share his experiences on the Mandarin Blueprint Method course. He's currently in level 13 of the course, which is the beginning of phase 3, which means that he's been through the characters and the word learning phases. And so I'm sure you'll have some feedback about that. But before we get to anything about the course in particular, Heath, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in learning Chinese.
I'm a part-time account manager in Melbourne, and I've got a big interest in brewing, home brewing, so beer. And I've been interested in learning Chinese for about 20, 30 years and have tried different courses along the way, but they didn't last long. It was, a very bright flame of it at the beginning, and then it kind of died quite quickly because it just got hard. And I attempted it again about 2 years ago, or a bit over a year ago, with Duolingo app. And that went okay. And but I found that I was plateauing, and so I was looking for another course, and found you guys, and I've been enjoying it. It's been good. And the brewing part was to basically, hopefully there's some kind of opportunity in China with beer in the future.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. I've just around where I live here in Chengdu, I've seen a few microbreweries popping up. So, there very well may be some opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm not particularly familiar with the industry, but yeah, I've seen a few places right nearby. So tell me a little bit more about your experiences with these other, programs you were trying, or when, because that is a story we hear a lot where people say, I tried this, or I tried Duolingo. I think Duolingo is actually a decent introduction into starting to learn Chinese or certain languages, but obviously it's a bit limited in what it can get to you overall. But so obviously you were facing the problem of these different systems not working for you. What about those systems did you find to be not satisfactory enough?
Well, the other ones were classes that I took, and they were years ago, and it was basically, it was at 5:00 when I knocked, 5:30, and I had to rush into the city, and then try and stay awake during the year. And I reckon they were watching me to see if I was going to fall asleep or not. I was always nodding off because it got harder and harder. But so I didn't really stay with that for too long. It was just difficult. So Duolingo was good, but it was, so I learned. I learned a lot, and so I'm kind of, I understand a lot of some of the grammar, this more simpler grammar, and I've still got a few words under my belt which I can read okay, but it was more there was no option to write them unless you wanted to practice it, and there was no way to remember them. It was more learn by rote, that hopefully you see them enough that you'd recall them. And it was just, you're still working with an anonymous app that, you can chime into the community, but it's not really the same. And yours I find is kind of like Mandarin. It's a Mandarin kit. It's it's a language kit in kit form, and all you've got to do is put this part with this part, and this part with this part, and just follow the instructions. Here's the parts. Do what we tell you to do, and it'll all start to come together. And I find that's it's easier. And every time I find that I'm kind of going, oh man, this is getting hard. It's getting hard. Suddenly, Luke will pop up with a video saying, "Hang in there. We know it's getting hard," and you'll say exactly the right thing at the right time. So it's kind of like you're holding our hand, but you're wanting us to kind of leave the nest as well. And it's I've been looking at your faces for 2 months now, and it's kind of like this relationship, this weird relationship building up. That I'll be suddenly a Mandarin Blueprint fanboy, and it'll be all very gushy if I went to Chengdu and met you guys.
Well, if you ever come to Chengdu, we'll be happy to buy you a microbrew.
Oh,
But
good, good.
so, well, yeah. So that's cool to hear. Yeah, I think that is an interesting way to think of it, as if it's like a kit, because that sort of gets across the idea that at the end of the day, you still have to put the pieces together yourself, but we've tried to plan it out for you. So, but everybody still has to, it's not like we can just put the USB stick into your brain and download all the material. You still got to go through the process.
I
But
wish.
hopefully, what we've done is made it a little bit a little bit simpler than an IKEA furniture map for how to put that together. And not necessarily all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
much easier, but
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right.
cool. So tell us a little bit more about obviously you said that you would maybe want to get into uh, the brewing industry in China, but is there anything else that you might do if you're successful in becoming fluent, literate in Mandarin, or any other plans that you might have or goals with that skill?
Look, I've got a few little ideas that pop up. It's a little bit around tourism and documentaries and those kind of. I've got a background in photography, as you can probably see by the
Cool.
camera over there. So I think about those types of things. So I've got some ideas which I've just having another language would be having Mandarin would be really helpful. But there's a bit of a trade war going on here at the moment, so I don't know how things are going to turn out. But
Right, right.
I'm, until I kind of get, I'm enjoying the process of learning it at the moment, and I can see that I'm making progress. I can hear I'm making progress, and I guess as that will develop, I will just keep doing other study in different fields um, so I've got the language plus I've got these other things I've learned, these other things I've been trying out, so
Hmm.
that they can all come together hopefully at once, and I can communicate with suddenly a lot of people what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Oh, that is
Sorry,
something
it's
the
a
Chinese
bit
is great
vague.
for, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Like that idea
Sorry.
of, if after you build the foundation, you learn a specialty in Chinese, and that's when you really start to see the advantage of a language that's more unified. So, like, English has all these different roots, which is fine, and that makes English good in certain ways, especially for things like comedy. But when it comes to, like, say for example, you learn chemistry, just for the sake of argument, you decide you want to learn chemistry. Well, uh, in English, you're going to have a lot of chemical terms that have different prefixes and suffixes that aren't familiar to you just by knowing everyday English. But in
Yeah,
Chinese, like, sure, there's a new character that's specific just to chemistry, but you're going to know some elements of the character, so you still have that. But then a lot of it is just like, it will uh, I read like these chemicals sometimes on the back of something. I'm just, whenever there's Chinese characters in front of me, I try to understand it, and I'll be like, wow, this is like really simple. How it's just describing what the chemical does. That's like the name of the chemical is like what it
yeah,
does, and then you're just
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
okay, well that's really simple. So that's just one example, but in so many instances, might be photography, might be microbrewing. You'll read the Chinese, and the Chinese is really just a description of what the different aspects of, say, the brewing process are, and that makes it really easy. You got to build the foundation first, so that's more like what you want to be thinking after you finish our intermediate course, but still you'll be very pleased by that when you get to that point. um, yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the actual course itself. So as you've been going through it, obviously we had this whole crazy mnemonic system of learning movie scenes and all that, and imagining movie scenes to remember a character. How has that been going for you? How long does it take you to learn a character these days using this the Henza movie method?
Initially, it took quite some time,
Mhm.
and it's been. I've understood the process. I've read books on the process. I just hadn't really put it into large scale practice,
Mhm.
and so it, I can even just tell looking at the notes that I keep with each lesson that I was kind of quite resistant
Mhm.
in the beginning and I didn't quite understand it. So my notes are kind of a bit vague and sketchy. And as I've kind of finally, okay, I get it now, I understand it, and my notes are a lot clearer. I can get, it takes maybe 2 minutes, 2.5, three
Mhm.
minutes at the
Yeah.
moment for me to get through a character.
Mm.
And then it's pretty much there, which has been really good. Um, so it's uh, it's giving up the control that I want to have and just following the instruction which you're giving us, which works. And so long as I do that and just forget everything I know and just start trying the new system, and then it gets me excited because I'm thinking, what other things can I commit to memory? You know, there's a long human history of remembering things, and even ancient texts were memorized in their entirety, and then
right.
then taken back to whoever wanted the information, and they were written down again. So it's been around. It's just we haven't utilized it for so many decades, hundreds of years perhaps. So now it's exciting, and so I'm look around my books and studies and things. And what can I memorize? I'm going to have a crack at this, have a crack at that, and then I think, I wonder what other languages they could do. And then I thought, then the guys would have to go to, the Middle East and then study to Middle Eastern stuff, and then there'd be the Arabic blueprint, and then the other blueprints. There'd be a whole franchise going.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe we definitely have a lot more work we want to do on this one first, but that's in a way we're kind of getting the giant out of the way at the beginning with doing Mandarin. So maybe after that we'll be like, sure, the Spanish blueprint, no problem. So
yeah.
that'll be
Well,
pretty cool.
To have the technology that you've created into such a format that works it makes it all very exciting, and it's suddenly things that seemed out of reach seem quite easily in reach.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. There's so many things that we've been able to gain access to, even over just the past couple of years, that we never had before at all. And that's there's certain softwares we use that just simply didn't exist 2 years ago. So it makes us think like, wow, we really are right where you need to be at this point in terms of communicating with people. And like things are just getting easier and easier in the tech world, like in the sense that, take for example our community forum. That's just a feature of the platform where we host the course. We didn't have to build it ourselves. It was just like, it was super easy to make, and now we utilize it all the time. So it's really, technology has made this whole process way easier, which of course isn't, all we're doing is taking advantage of it. So that's been great. And so as you've been going through, what do you think are the sort of parts of the Mandarin Blueprint method that have made the biggest impact so far, especially in the context of having tried other things before? What sort of sticks out to you in that sense?
Pronunciation course was really good. I've taken on other languages in the past, and not being able to make the right sounds to make the right words, it leaves every exchange kind of, you're stumbling through. And I used to find that suddenly my tongue just was enormous and I couldn't speak properly. I'd say something and they go, huh? And I go,
yeah.
So I've so it's been great for my confidence in that regards. Practicing the mnemonics has been really good, because it's that whole part of it has been the most exciting part, is seeing it work so effectively in action, that I can go through, I can read the sentences, and if I can't remember it, I can look at it and say, okay, it's got this element and this element and that element, and then think back to the movie. What was the movie that I created about that? Like, oh yeah, that's right. And they did this and they did that, and it's like, oh, all right. And where did that happen? That happened in this set. And it was, oh yeah, okay, that's what it was. I remember now. So it's a little, it's slow, but it's that reference point that you don't have with Chinese, but you have with Romance languages. So that it's like the access to the alphabet that you have for those ones, but you don't get with Chinese. But it's been great. What's another part? And also the feedback, and you're always quick to respond with feedback on questions and videos and podcasts and things like that, which are also great. So it's not like you've left us to fend for ourselves, and there's been no reason for us to say it's a good course except for this bit, or it's can't get a hold of them. They never respond.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't found any negative aspect to have me not want to do the course or continue.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, the our eventually, at some point, if we keep growing as we have been, at some point it will reach a point where there's just too many messages for us to possibly
Yeah.
answer. But what our hope is that through the community that will get enough people who know what the course is all about, that they can end up sort of paying it forward a little bit and like helping out the newbies in the future. We'll see how that goes. So far though, it's great. The community forum has already kind of done that a little bit, especially with questions about Anki or the flashcard software, which is a big help to us because there's only so much time in the day. So like it's great that people have been helping us. It's actually one of those things I feel incredibly grateful for, is that the community has actually become quite a positive and helpful group of people, which is just wasn't in our plans at all. We didn't really think about that when we made the course. We were just like, let's just make a course, and then here we are now with all these great people, including yourself included. So it's been very, very interesting. So how about have you noticed, it's early yet, but have you noticed any impacts on your life? You noticed any like Chinese characters? And because I know in Australia there's a lot of Chinese around, so like have you noticed anything in your day-to-day life that's been impacted?
Uh, not really. And I've just went to a Chinese grocer as well to pick up some Szechuan pepper.
Oh, nice.
I'm curious to taste it and
I love it.
and find out
Yeah.
more about it. So it's made me more curious about China, which I wasn't overly interested in for any particular reason, but I guess I'm becoming a bit more of a Sinophile. You know, so I've been watching more shows on cooking shows, traveling through China, and just taking more of an interest in trying to understand the language, whether it's written or spoken, just for as a game for myself to see what I can understand. Um, I have picked up the odd word or two as I've passed people in the street, and the guy who owns the roast chicken shop up the road, I was very excited when he said "Yiga" to one of his
Right.
offsiders. I'm like, I know what that means. I know what that
means. Yeah, no, it's great. Like if you can manage to find the excitement and recognition at every stage, because obviously, eventually, you're not going to be impressed with yourself that you can understand Yiga. But like the first time you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's great. And then as you continue, that it keeps happening. It just keeps getting wider. The sort of, it's just, I thought when I first started learning, I kind of fundamentally didn't believe I could do it. I sort of was like, at the end of the day, I'm never going to really understand Chinese, but maybe I can learn some and whatever. And then now I understand it's like, that's totally not the case. It's just a matter of being around it with enough time, getting enough input, prioritizing correctly. It's like if you have to get input, it means you got to learn characters. So you just have to follow the steps. But it really does come to you. And then eventually you're like, wow, I'm listening to this political discussion between like pundits on TV and learning stuff. And that's when you really start to feel like you've succeeded, is when you start to learn things that aren't the language in the language. So that's because obviously it's a meta skill, knowing a language. You want to use it to learn other skills, which is kind of what you were alluding to before. So let's talk. It sounds like you were maybe a little bit skeptical of the mnemonic system. Was it like, tell me in general what you were skeptical about in the course? Because it's certainly, we expect people to be skeptical because it's a bit weird.
I wasn't so much so skeptical. I just didn't understand how it was meant to work. And there'll be things that, choose a prop or choose this. And I wanted to, because I did the Duolingo one, I already had associations with particular characters. And part of me didn't want to give that up, because for me, mine were really exactly what I wanted to remember them, but they wouldn't have fit. They don't fit ongoingly as part of the course, because my one, as it goes on, becomes part of another word, it won't work. So I was kind of reluctant to let go of that. So I'd have to go back and relearn things as well. relearn
Sure.
that character. So, with mnemonics, you've got this, it's embedded almost, and then you've got to go and relearn it. So it's hard to remove it once it's already embedded. You've got to dig it out and start again. So it wasn't so much I was skeptical. It was just um, I was trying to do it my version of it on top of your version.
Yeah, it was almost like you were skeptical that you would have to get rid of what you already knew and try this new thing. So it's not exactly like you were skeptical that it would work, but it was like, is it worth it overall, considering that you already knew this stuff? So that makes sense. Yeah,
Or,
totally.
or is it going to work? And I don't understand how. And so I think that, and then also I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning with the movies and things. I wasn't understanding how it was all meant to work. And as I've gone, I was like, okay, this is why we do this, and this is why we do this. Now I understand it. I mean, you explained it in your videos. I just
Mhm.
wasn't listening.
Well, we just try to we just try to help people go step by step at the beginning and like not worry too much about it being slow going at the start, because like it's like compared to how many characters you're going to learn using this method, like it takes, I don't know, maybe 30 characters or so before you kind of go, I got this, I see what these guys are going for. So but yeah, it can definitely be a little bit weird at the beginning. Now, how about obviously we're trying always to improve the course and make it more user friendly. We, probably like once a week we make a minor tweak or something based on people's feedback. So, any suggestions for how we could improve the flow of the course, or just anything in general about the course you'd think we could do better?
I've given this some thought. There's two things that I've come up with.
Hmm,
So I want to get to a particular level, and I want to get to HSK 4,
hmm,
but I'm curious about HSK 6. But for
sure.
me, it's a bridge too far at the moment. It's not. I don't think it's impossible. It's like I don't know if I'm really going to need to go that far, but maybe I do. Um, I think would be great is if during the course you can say, okay, you're at this level now. This is the equivalent to HSK 1, or if you
Hmm,
or HSK2, so I can measure my progress. If I want to take the exam, I can take the exam, and I know that I'm not going to blow my dough, and I'll be able
right.
to understand the exam, and then it's something I can add to my resume, that I'm at this level. So for me, that would be helpful. I mean, some people don't care, but for me, I like to measure and know
Sure.
where I am in the scheme of things.
Well, I can tell you this: at the end of the foundation course, we give an Anki deck that's the remaining HSK 1 through 3 words that are made up of the foundation course characters, but didn't come up because they're more medium frequency words. They're not quite as high frequency. So I imagine that after you do that, passing the HSK 3 would be fairly. You might miss a few questions, but it would be pretty easy to pass. And then after the intermediate course, we made sure that all of the vocabulary from the HSK 4 was covered in the intermediate course.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I would even suspect that you could do pretty well in the HSK 5 after the intermediate course, but I wouldn't guarantee it. But I would certainly guarantee you'd be able to pass the HSK 4 after the intermediate course. And then the
Mm.
next expansion, we're going to try to include all the vocabulary from the 5 and the 6, which will make it quite big. And that's why the next expansion is going to be, probably it'll probably take us maybe 8 to 10 months to build. But
Right,
still, though,
yeah.
it's
Mm.
that's we are thinking about that, so I'll keep that in mind. But you said you had another suggestion as well.
Yeah, another one, which may be just me being a bit weak, was with the sentences
Hmm,
in the Anki deck.
hmm,
Um, it's I found it's a really kind of I need to read the sentence in Chinese, which is fine, but the missing word, I don't know what the missing word is because I don't know what the actual question or the sentence is.
hmm,
You know what I mean? So it's there in Chinese with a missing word. So it's a bit like a crossword puzzle. I've got to work out what the missing word is, but I don't have any clue as to
hmm,
what that missing word is. Which, in one hand, it makes it hard, but in the other hand means I've got to think really hard about what it could be. So I've been
hmm.
like, is it a problem? Is it not a problem? Maybe I've just got to be a bit tougher and think a bit harder.
Hmm. Well,
So I thought,
I do think we could probably make it a little bit simpler in level 13, but you are in level 13 right now, which means that you're basically in the stage with sentences that you were at the beginning with the character learning method. So like there's always going to be that initial what the Chinese would call 磨合, which is like when you grind out familiarity. It's kind of a cool word, which
yeah,
basically means
yeah,
like there's a period of time where it's a little bit more grindy, but then once you're familiar, it starts to be really smooth. And that's exactly kind of what level 13 should be. As a matter of fact, we give you more sentences in level 13 than we do in level 14 and 15 because we want you to like kind of, just sort of throw you into the fire a little bit and be like, all right, here's sentences for you. But that said, though, I get it. I know what you're saying. And I know that at the beginning of, especially, it can be like this new thing where it can be potentially discouraging, but hopefully I promise you, once you get over that hump, it'll start to get really easy actually. But
hmm
but yeah, that's a good bit of feedback. Luke and I have actually had like long sort of debates about how we handle level 13 before, so it's that's definitely on our minds. So thanks for letting us know that that's kind of how you
yeah,
experience that. Yeah, cool.
yeah, yeah. It's nice. It's good. It makes you think, but it can be a bit. It just kind of. I think because it slows me down. I'm doing it in the morning, and I'm kind of like I've been ripping through it, and then suddenly I've hit the well, now it's ground to a halt, and I'm like, God, I think, oh, what the hell's that thing, man? I don't know what's that
Mm-hmm,
word mean.
mm-hmm.
From there, yeah, easy, good, easy, and now it's just like hard. I don't know, hard, good.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I understand that. Well, I think that there's potentially some things we could do there to make it even a little simpler. I was thinking about even just having all of the It's a Word and New Vocabulary Unlocked lessons in level 13 all have videos where we go through each sentence individually. And obviously, you don't need to do that moving into the future, but like maybe at the beginning, we have a bit more teaching at that point, and then that will make the reviewing a little bit. When you're reviewing, you want to be able to connect it to the teaching that you got before. So we could probably add a bit more teaching in there to make it better. So that's a good bit of feedback. Yeah. So I'll look into that. All right. So final question. I'm John Doe looking to buy a Mandarin course. So Heath, should I buy a Mandarin Blueprint?
Absolutely, buy Mandarin Blueprint. It's been money well spent, and it's the language kit, as I said before. It's all you've got to do is follow the training, follow the teachings, and you'll progress through. There's no you're left to work it out yourself. It's all the information there. You got all the videos there, everything that I could possibly need as a resource is there. It's been great, I've been wanting to tell other people about it, but I'm also want to kind of hold off until I can come and tell them to do it in Chinese. It's
Oh, right. Well,
and they
it's
go,
always step by
wow.
step.
But it'd be good to have people to speak with who I'm friends with as well, who thought that they'd have a crack at it as well.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks for the feedback there and the recommendation. And if anybody else out there watching this wants to learn more, you can just head to mandarinblueprint.com. So thank you, Heath, for taking the time. And yeah, have a great rest of the week.
Thank you very much.
谢谢你观看我们的这个视频. If you found this video valuable and you'd like us to help you reach fluency and literacy in Mandarin Chinese as fast as possible without all the headache of traditional learning methods, just head to mandarinblueprint.com to learn more. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell below to be notified every time we release a new video. And of course, 保重.